Welcome to the ONS podcast with your host, Linnea Jacobson.
Welcome back, you guys, to our ONS podcast brought to you by our partners at Face to Face Academy. ONS stands for Office of Neighborhood Safety. I'm your host, Linnea Jacobson, and work on the ONS team. We created this podcast for departments like ours and community organizations to come on and talk about our services. All the episodes are about connecting you to alternative public safety measures, programs, and your local growth and healing opportunities. Today, we are going to talk about how it takes a village, and who better than to join us in that conversation is the Urban Village. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So with me, I have Carly Miller, who has a background in education. She serves as the Director of Operations for the Urban Village, where she oversees all of the administrative functions, which includes grant writing and fundraising. And because of her background in education, she has a passion for overseeing youth succeed, so she is heavily invested in the college readiness dynamics of the program. Carly, what are you most looking forward to this spring?
Ooh.
Yeah, you weren't prepared for that question.
No,
were you?
I love it. Spring brings warmer weather and more access to the outdoors and more motivation to get out of the house. And so I am looking forward to our youth getting to do more outside the box activities and opportunities to connect with one another, but also connect with nature and sunshine, and vitamin D makes everyone a little bit more, a little more spring in their step. Yep. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to that for our kids after some cold months of kind of hunkering down inside our space.
Okay. Next question. You must choose one color to describe yourself. What color would you choose and why?
Yellow. It's not my favorite color at all, but my mother always called me sunshine and smiles, so I've always identified or felt connected to yellow for a personality connection.
That's sweet. Okay, last question. Umbrella kept in the front hall closet or umbrella kept in the car?
In the car, always.
That part. Mm-hmm. Also with us, we have co-executive director Keziah Josiah, who has a bachelor's in political science and economics from St. Olaf. She is a former community engagement specialist with the St. Paul Police Department, working to help the department strengthen relationships between law enforcement and the Asian community. Her passion lies with working with immigrants and refugee families. Her love within the organization lies in youth outreach aspects of the program, which address opioid addiction. Welcome, Keziah.
Thank you.
So, what is your favorite thing about the beginning of a new year?
Ooh, I would say just not having any plans yet and just trying to chill for the first couple weeks, but then it always get chaotic afterwards. So yeah.
Do you or your family have any spring traditions or anything like that?
No, not really.
Yeah. We're like an Easter family. Like Easter is my favorite holiday. Okay. So we have like our big spring tradition is like everybody has to go to church. It doesn't matter where you are, how old you are, everybody has to go and everybody has to wear what I want them to wear and pose for this same picture, because I like to take pictures of the kids in the same spot. So I have these same pictures in the same spot so you can just watch them grow, and it's real. That's my thing.
Oh, I love that.
That is like my thing. Like I have to have that. Okay. Next question. What statement best describes you, Keziah? I've got a green thumb, can't wait to get out in the yard and plant some new bulbs and watch things bloom. Or B, I give up. I'd much rather make a trip to Home Depot and purchase some annuals to fool all the neighbors.
I would say A would describe me best.
Oh, you got a green thumb?
Yeah.
Okay. Usually young people don't have a green thumb. No offense, nobody young get mad at me, but it took me a while to get there. It took some age in order for me to get a green thumb. So, yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so let's jump right into these questions. Carly, who is the Urban Village and why is there a need for the Urban Village?
Yeah, so the Urban Village is a place and space for youth from the Karen and Karenni communities. Our goal is accompaniment, so we want to hang out with kids and let these individuals know that there is an affinity space for them, but there's also just a space to be with others, that there's time to get after it in the classroom and make sure we're on track for graduation, but also time for play, that there is cultural preservation available to them so that they stay connected to their homeland in Myanmar and feel like they have a sense of identity as both Karen or Karenni and being a youth in east side of St. Paul or beyond in the Twin Cities. So we work with youth in middle school and high school. And our main goal, again, is accompaniment and not empowerment. We don't believe we have power to give them. We believe that the power is in themselves, but we'd like to cheer them on along the way. And so our goal is to just be alongside them, as our 3 areas of focus are to connect, to heal, and to launch into their wildest dreams.
How long have you guys been located on the east side of St. Paul? When did you guys get started?
We became an official 501c3 in 2019. There's been work ongoing since 2012 when our founder, Jesse Fino, began doing work and trying to make a go at this being his employment, working with Karen and Karenni youth. We acquired our physical space on Arcade Street in the east side of St. Paul in 2019 and have been developing programs ever since then.
And what's the problematic need that you guys are addressing?
I think it's twofold. Initially, we were launched because we saw that there was just not as many services for Karen and Karenni individuals in the Twin Cities, while St. Paul and the greater metro area is home to the largest population of resettled refugees from the Karen and Karenni communities. So we felt like we wanted to provide more space and place for cultural preservation, art, good food, community gatherings, things of that nature. As we continued to grow, we identified that we really needed to be youth focused and that our current focus of safety and kind of issues that we're trying to tackle is the realities that our youth are navigating, being either a 1.5 generation or second generation refugee or individual new to the Twin Cities, to the United States, as they navigate how to get through middle school, high school, how to kind of grow into who they are. And so we are tackling opioid addictions, sometimes gang activity and violence that our youth are facing, justice-involved youth, to try to encourage them and let them know that they matter and they're seen and that their choices don't define who they are. And so that's been kind of the turn that we've been focused on in the past couple of years, as we've seen a larger increase in individuals and youth involved or justice involved or handling or trying to get past a opioid addiction. Those have been our more focused areas.
So where did your passion for this type of work come from?
For me, I was a high school teacher for 7 years and I loved the work with youth, but I didn't love the system. Public education and people working in it are incredible, but the system itself is, in my opinion, outdated. Mm-hmm. And we are doing things that no longer serve our youth. And so I wanted to stay involved in working with young people, but I didn't want to have to keep following the rules of engagement when it came to curriculum and teaching and standards and testing, and having youth be identified by a score or by a letter grade instead of by their capabilities and their passions. So I'd been a board member at the Urban Village because I'd been a friend of the founder, Jesse Fino, from college. And when I took a leave of absence from teaching, he offered me to come over to help with some grant writing. And then once I got to know the youth, I'd been closely tied to the Karen and Karenni communities through sports, being a volleyball coach. And so I had gotten to know a handful of families in that way and love the collectivist, invitational, welcome, community-based culture that's there. And so it felt like a perfect fit between those two connections, it being youth-centered and just really appreciating my neighbors who are Karen and Karenni.
I appreciate your comment because I think one of the things that you don't hear enough is that these are human beings that exist outside of the regular school day. Mm-hmm. And so like math and science and reading and writing might prepare them for a career, but it's not going to save their lives, especially dealing in the climate that we're in right now, right? With what they have to deal with when they leave school. Mm-hmm. So between home and school, there's a lot that goes on in between. So that whole traditional learning thing and forgetting about the life skills, mm-hmm. I think we need more focus on that, especially with the school system having our kids like 8 hours out of the day, right?
Absolutely.
More of that should. So kudos to organizations like the Urban Village that foster our kids and the things that they deal with outside of school, after school, because that's where the development and the learning actually starts. Because what about you? Where did the passion for this kind of work come from for you?
I think my own passion for this work comes from my own experience growing up as a refugee and just struggling to figure out where I fit into the society, because I was dealing with a lot of like intersectional identity, being a Korean person, but I was born in Thailand, went to Thai school, not really know where to fit into my own community as a Korean person, and also coming to the US and having to like integrate myself in the society. And so there was like a lot of challenges that I was dealing with. And I see that with the youth that we're working right now, they're also going through similar experiences where they're trying to figure out where they fit in, and they're battling with many, many things. And so I wanted to provide like a resource as well as use my own experience and how I've learned to navigate through that and accompany them. And we like to use that word a lot. We don't like to use the word empowered, because who are we to empower a youth, right? But we want to accompany them to help them navigate through the challenges that they're dealing with. So
That's awesome. Carly, can you tell us who your partners are that assist with the research that sets the stage for what needs to be done and how you go about administering the work?
Yeah, I love this question. We are a small but mighty team of 3 full-time staff. And so partnerships are absolutely pivotal to ensure that we do this work well. To start, we partner with our community. There are over 15 mentors that we now work with part-time that are Ganya or Karen and Kareni that are either in college or in their 20s or 30s who work one-to-one with our youth who are seeking mentorship or need a little bit more consistent one-to-one support. So that would be our first big partner, is our young adults that just experienced what it was like to be a teenager who are giving back and working with our youth. And then beyond that, we have a great relationship with the St. Paul Police Department, specifically the gang unit, that is passionately trying to get to know the youth of St. Paul and connect them with partnerships and organizations like our own to support them so that the option isn't just justice involvement. They work with us really well to say, we've got some kids on our radar who are Karen or Kareni. They're getting involved in things that don't serve them, that could get them in trouble. Can you help us connect with them? And can you provide space and place for programming for them? Because our goal is really to intervene before justice involvement as much as possible. When we do see that an individual is justice involved, we have a great partnership as well with the Juvenile Detention Center. So they allow us to come in and meet with youth one-to-one, connect with them before they are released so that we can then try to get them involved in our programs as well.
I love it.
Very cool. And then the St. Paul Public Schools has been a great partner. We have a really strong working relationship with Humboldt High School, and we've gotten to know administration in some of the other schools like Como and Washington Tech, and we're continuing to try to grow those relationships so that they know that we are also available for parent outreach, student support, academic success. So we work really well and try to work closely with the schools. As you said, they're in school for 8 hours of their day.
Right.
And so those individuals know a lot about them and their background, but we want to be kind of the bridge between school and home. And then we work with a few different clinics and doctors that are specifically focused on the opioid crisis. And they are really available to us on an on-call basis if we have a youth who is expressing interest in trying to get support with their opioid addiction, to get them linked up with things like Suboxone that helps alleviate the withdrawals. And just educating our youth that there are people out there and there are things out there that will help them as they're trying to navigate recovery. And similarly, we work with Wilder Foundation because none of us are trained therapists or mental health counselors. So we try to accompany our youth when they are seeking those things. And even our mentors will go so far as to driving and sitting with our kids that might need extra services. But we have places like Wilder that are very available and on call as well to get those types of evaluations done for our kids. Kazia, am I missing any?
no, KOM.
Yeah. Karen organization in Minnesota. we've always kind of said as our big brother, big sister org. They do a whole lot of services for a whole lot of people, not just in the Karen and Karenni communities, but other refugee communities. And they have an area of support that's for youth. And so we really try to work alongside them step by step. They have a case management program. And so we want the case managers to know our space, to feel good about bringing kids that they're working with to our programs. So we try to include them and get counsel and give advice as well for our youth with them on a monthly basis, and even work together sometimes for funding.
You guys are out here doing it. That's a lot of stuff for 4 people. That is a lot of stuff. I want to back up to address something that you were speaking about. So, Keziah, what are you doing specifically to address the opioid crisis in St. Paul's East Side? And hearing what Carly says, it's you guys are in multiple different schools. So even though you're primarily located on the East Side, you guys are touching kids that are all over St. Paul. If you're all the way at Humboldt, you know what I mean? So can you just tell me a little bit more about what you're doing to address the opioid crisis?
Yeah, for sure. So I think Carly kind of explained a lot in terms of our partnership with some of our community organizations. And I think with that component, they had helped us with in terms of like dealing with the substance use portion. But where we see ourselves fit in the layer of like working with the students or the youth is that we see ourselves as more of like an aftercare program where we provide supports, life skills, and all the fun things that a youth should be experiencing. And so with that said, we are working with schools. So the schools help us identify the students, and then we try to like work with the students, not only with the students, but also with their parents as well, to help educate the parents about the opioid crisis and help them navigate like, okay, you should connect them with a doctor. And yeah, a lot of things that Carly had mentioned already. And I think with when you're working with a youth, they need a lot of love and support. And I think that's where the mentorship program comes in. And mentors are actually the people from the community that have similar experiences working. I guess they have similar experiences from the past, understanding the struggles that the students are going through. And so, again, we're not specialized in treating a youth, right, or determining how to treat a youth, but we provide the love and support, the space, the resources, and I think that's how we address this issue. We can't do it alone. We have to work as a community to provide all these resources. And so there's just a lot of layers, but I think we see ourselves as more of like an organization where we want to just support the youth with like the love and the skills. So
helping them navigate the sobriety.
Yeah.
So from that, can you tell us about how the healing and the life skills component of your programming is so important and why it's so important?
Yeah, for sure. And with our mentorship program, we run every Wednesday. The mentors also meet with their mentees regularly, weekly, to do like the check-in, making sure that they're getting all the support that they need. But through our Wednesday program, that's where we have a lot of students that come in and want to be part of that program, because some of the conversations that we have during our Wednesday group is just, it seems very simple, but it's very important. And some of the topics we cover are, how do you have effective communication with your parents or your family or your friends, right? How do you regulate your emotions when you're feeling mad? These are just some of the examples that we talked to our students, because coming from a Karen community or Karen family, we don't really talk about these things.
Okay.
And there's not like other space that we have these type of conversation, or even like having conversation about like, or just like safe sex, right? Like those are like taboo topics, or mental health. And so we want to start prepping them and have them start thinking about these things and help them understand that it's okay to talk about these things with your mentors. It's not an embarrassing thing to like figure out how to navigate through these things, because as a Karen community, you don't really talk about some of these topics. So
culturally, you don't talk about those topics. So do you find that sometimes when you're asking the kids to open up and prompting them to have healthy conversations around things that we need to make sure it's healthy, right? Do they open up, or are they more closed, or like, does it take a while to reach them, or?
They get so fascinated. They get into it. I think they enjoy talking about it, because there's, like I mentioned, they don't really have this opportunity to talk to other people or as a group. And I think they learn a lot from the mentors as well. And then if they see that there's somebody from the community or if the mentors is comfortable talking about this, then okay, this is something that we should be talking about or be more comfortable having these type of conversations. So
normalizing it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's something that's going to happen. These are things that they have to deal with, and not talking about them doesn't make them go away.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Carly, what do you think? Why is it so important to have the healing component of your program?
Yeah. A couple of years ago, one of our young adults in the community, she's a community advocate, had shared that she doesn't have much recollection of her time growing up in Thailand and was not born in the homeland of Myanmar. But she said, even though I don't have that lived experience, I carry it in my soul. Like it's in my bones, the experience and the trauma of resettlement. And that really struck me because that has not been my experience. I was born here in St. Paul and have been here my whole life. And it's something I hadn't really considered, that for our youth that either have minimal memories from growing up being in a refugee camp, and so maximum amount of time has been here, I think some of our youth think that they don't know what it's like or what it means to be a refugee. And they feel a disconnect from the parents' experience or older siblings' experiences who completely had to uproot and adjust their lives or sacrifice everything so that the next generation would have opportunity. And that comes with a lot of pressure as well of, I need to make sure that I do not mess up the opportunity that was given to me by my family and by my older siblings and my parents. And so I think one thing that's important to us is to identify for our youth that there is healing to be done for them as well. And though their experience might be different than even their older siblings and certainly their parents' experience, that they are navigating things as well. Many of them express to us, I don't feel fully Karen, but I certainly don't feel fully American. I feel in between. I'm not really sure where my identity is. And I think we're in a world right now where it is really easy to self-medicate and or seek quick and easy vices to kind of try to help the healing of that. But to Kazia's point earlier, when she says how quickly our kids typically jump into these conversations, I think we're learning that everybody just wants to be known and seen, and that who they are and what they have to share matters. And so we really believe that our mentorship program, our tutoring on Tuesdays and Thursdays, our time at the Urban Village with these youth, that we want to make sure they're known by name and by the name that they choose and what they want to be called, that we know a little bit about them and that we're excited to see them. And if they're battling stuff that keeps them away from us, that we're going to keep calling and encouraging them, hey, we'd love to have you. We're here for you. We're thinking about you. So I think that healing process and just having space for these kids to show up where they're at right now, what they're battling, and that they matter and that we want them there is a really important part of the healing process. And then also to just provide space to point out, like, it's hard right now to be a teenager. Yeah. I don't know, but I can see it. I've been proximate enough to know this is not an easy time to grow up. And so let's struggle together. You've got your peers, you've got people who just were in high school who are proximate and remember that experience. And then you've got some of us older aunties that I put myself in the category
Not
of.
the aunties.
Yeah, that wants to get to know you too and might ask you more cringy questions and not be as up to speed with what's relevant and cool. But in that, at least you can laugh at me too and find some laughter in that. So we really do want to be a village space, and we want to let them know that it's hard, life is difficult, but that they are somebody, they matter, and we're here for them.
Amen. What are your goals for the neighborhoods in St. Paul that you serve? Let's start with you, Kazia.
So our goal is, of course, to provide not only space for youth, but also like we want them to get a lot out of this program. So that way, when they graduate out of this program or become an adult, then they would become the next batch of mentors. So it's kind of like the concept of grow your own. And so that's our long-term goal. But our short-term goal or immediate goal would be to help youth just graduate high school, to help them provide with resources that they need, whatever they're struggling with. If that is just as basic as getting to the school or navigating through the court system or figuring out how to set goals and plans and things like that. And so that's our short-term goals. Yeah, I think we have short-term goals, long-term goals, but ultimately we want to grow our own. And we want them to come back and be the mentor so that way they can feel like they belong in this space, this community, and figure out a way to give back. And I think a lot of them had already mentioned that when I'm done with high school, when I'm at that point, I want to come back and be a mentor to some of the students. So.
And what are the ages of the students that you guys are serving again?
13 to 18.
13 to 18. Carly, what are your goals for the neighborhoods and the youth that you guys serve for St. Paul?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, just for the neighborhoods, I love St. Paul. I finally moved downtown recently, so I feel even more proximate to kind of not just the cusp of St. Paul. And I really feel like through my work, getting to be in a community organization, there is so many good things happening around here. And I want our kids to know that they have resources and that this city believes in them and wants what's good for them, what's best for them. So I think we're really trying to, in the short term, just kind of give them access to what's out there for them, where they can go, resources to help support their dreams, that police officers that they come in contact with are here to support them. And I think we have a handful of police officers that even volunteer in our programs and tutor to make that scene that like, hey, I'm a human too, and I'm here to support you. That teachers are going to bat for them. One of my favorite things is to email back and forth with a counselor or teacher from a school and then tell one of our young people that so-and-so teacher reached out to me, and they think it's weird at first that we're all talking about them, but you can tell that they realize, oh, they really care.
Yeah.
These teachers in my building really want to see me succeed, and they're reaching out. And so one of our big goals as an organization in the neighborhoods of St. Paul is to continue to work together, because I think there is such a passion for young people in this city.
Yes.
But we're better together. And if we try to all do specific work but contribute to the greater good, I think some really remarkable things can keep happening. So I think we want to keep growing our partnerships and our work with others. And then for our specific youth, as Kazia said, we just want them to tap into what makes them feel good in the morning, what makes them wake up and say, I want to go out there and get it, and I want to chase my dream, helping them identify that their dream is worthy, whatever it might be, and that there's some creative options. And so Kazia does an amazing job with our programs of bringing in different community speakers, different professions and careers that they can explore to see what might click and what they might also see and be like, I never want to be that job. That's good too. Elimination is helpful. So I think in the short term, we're trying to just put as much in front of them of positive opportunities, places and spaces in the community that they can be pursuing, and then build a plan with them to make sure there's no barrier. And that big thing is get your high school diploma. And then we've got a handful of kids that have gotten through the Right Track program in the summer through St. Paul, really passionate about the trades and finding their passion, working with their hands. That's awesome. And some are thinking college is their goal because they have a career that requires that. That's great. Let's look in those scholarships. Let's make sure grades are where they need to be so that you get everything you possibly can. And then we've got some that are already ready to jump into their careers, and that's awesome too. And we just want to be a space that they can keep coming to. And then to Kazia's point of grow your own, that eventually they're the ones doing the mentoring because they know it best. They experienced it. So we tell them all the time, like, when you are graduating, you're going to come back and be one of our mentors, right? And they kind of get this like, am I worthy of that? And I'm like, you're the expert. You've experienced it. You've lived it. So that's our ultimate goal in the next 5 years, is that our current mentees start to pursue their passions post high school, and then they become the mentors and help the next batch of current elementary school kids as they're navigating middle school and high school.
I love it. I know we've had some communication where we've gone back and forth and stuff, but it was so nice to like meet you guys in person.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome. You guys really are awesome. The city and organizations within St. Paul are working to rehabilitate, intervene, and rebuild safer neighborhoods. Again, this podcast is about being able to connect you with alternative public safety matters, programs, and your local growth and healing opportunities. If you'd like to learn more about the Urban Village or how to donate, please visit theurbanvillage.org, and that is theurbanvillage.org. If you'd like to learn more about Community First Public Safety and the Office of Neighborhood Safety, please visit stpaul.gov, click on Residents, scroll down to Public Safety.